the inscriptions are very specific and clear of the date of the Mahabharata, which is 3101 BCE. So it is inter-verifiable through inscriptions. Like in inscriptions, we have one particular inscription which says, which refers to Shaka era and also Kali era. And another inscription we have Shaka era, Kali era, and Mahabharata era. And another inscription we have Yudhishthira Shaka, which is the year when Yudhishthira again regained the throne. We have two Yudhishthira Shakas, but primarily the famous one is when Yudhishthira took back the throne after the Mahabharata. So the point what I'm trying to say is that through the inscriptions and also literature, going back to the period of Aryabhatta and all that, this tradition of noting down the year of Mahabharata or year of Kali Yuga, year of the different eras, Shaka era and all that, this is a very, very ancient tradition. It's not something new which is created at a certain point of time. So I would rather stick with the inscriptional and the era system which has been coming down for thousands of years, rather than believing the softwares which don't agree with each other, and they also agree that we have inaccuracies. So I would stick with the tradition which is being passed down for thousands of years. But we also have references of the Tamil kings participating in the Mahabharata war. That is important, right? So that is what is important. So what I have done in my research is that I have proven that the Tamil kings have also participated in the Mahabharata war. This particular point is mentioned in the Mahabharata itself. In Mahabharata, we find that the Pandya kings are fighting in the Mahabharata war, right? So that is mentioned in the Mahabharata text. So the Cholas are also connecting their history to either Mahabharata or Ramayana. Pandyas are also connecting their history. So in that sense, how is South related to North? It is related because their history they are connecting through inscription, through literature, and through many other sources. They are connecting their history all the way till the Mahabharata, till the Vedic culture, Ramayana, etc. So that way, South is intrinsically connected to North. South cannot be, divided or disconnected from North. In fact, it's the entire Bharatvarsh. It was the entire Bharatvarsh, right? In Bharatvarsh, we had, that entire identity of Bharat, where Yudhishthir was Samrat, Maharaj Yudhishthir was Samrat Yudhishthir, and he was having the, the status of an emperor of the entire Bharatvarsh. In India, 90% of archaeological sites are still not excavated, and that's a huge number. You see, 90% is a huge number. So India, from the archaeological perspective, is still massive, huge potential. It's tremendous. It's unbelievable. It's massive. Even Dwarka is not fully excavated. Kurukshetra is fully yet to be mapped and excavated, right? Even the Purana Killa needs a lot of work. So in that sense, archaeological evidences are the real deal in the sense of the evidence. When we call it that evidence, generally everyone gives highest credence to the artifacts which are coming back from the period when the event happened. And in Aryan invasion theory, we were being taught in India that the Aryans invaded India at around 3,500 years back, 1,500 BC, okay, BCE, okay, before Common Era. So 1,500 BCE, Aryans invaded into India, and the Aryans brought chariots, Aryans brought horses, and Aryans came in chariots which had spoked wheels. Before that, India did not have chariots with spoked wheels, and India also did not have horses. This was the theory which was floated for a really, really long period of time. Starting with Max Muller, starting with Robert Caldwell, who agreed with his ideology. He tried to promote that the South Indians are a different race, Dravidian race, North are the Aryan race and all that. So to create that divisiveness within India and to create conflicts. So Aryan invasion theory was floated around, which means that the Aryans invaded India at around 1,500 BC. But the reality, the funny fact is, the Sonali chariots are around 3,900 or 4,000 years old. That's why it is important, because the lie which was being floated around for so long got smashed, got exposed. The lie was that the Aryans invaded into India at 1,500 BC. And only they brought chariots, they brought horses, they brought spoked wheels. They brought chariots which had spoked wheels. So before that, India did not have chariots with spoked wheels. India did not have also horses. That was a theory which was floated for really long in big universities all across the globe. That theory got questioned, attacked, challenged when the chariots of Sonali were found.
Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to Indic Talks, which has been arranged by Center for Indic Studies, Indus University. Today we have with us Chandru Ramesh Ji, who will be talking about the undeniable historical evidence of Mahabharata found in several texts. Chandru Ramesh Ji is a software engineer turned historian. His top-rated book showcases the historical evidences of Mahabharata. He presents his research at universities, and forums and temples worldwide. He leads Historika Foundations dedicated to establishing the real history of India. The talk that he will be delivering today is based on his book. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome him and hand over the floor to him. Welcome, sir.
Namaste. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's been a pleasure to get in touch with CIS, Indus University. Okay, so as I was introduced, my name is Chandru Ramesh. I'm a software engineer, former software engineer from HCL Tech. I was working for a few years, and then I decided that I have to dedicate my life to bring out the real history of Sanatana Dharma, real history of Bharat. So in this attempt, I gave precious years of my life in pursuit of the search for the question, did the Mahabharata really happen or not? This is one question which has been in my mind for really long, and I thought I need to work on this. So this is the book, Mahabharata Myth or History, which I've authored after 5 years of extensive research from archaeology, numismatics, inscriptions, Vedic literature, literatures from other religions, and Greek literature, Chinese literatures, and cave paintings, archaeological finds, and so on. It has more than 10 different streams of knowledge combined into one single book. So as I told you before, I was working in the software arena, and I was an Oracle life science expert, which means during the COVID era, this career would have shot really well. Right, life sciences, Oracle Life Sciences basically deals with the databasing part of medicines, new drugs which come out. So that's a very short introduction about my career, and then myself traveling around the globe giving lectures. The right one is from Malaysia, and leading personalities, Major General G.D. Bakshi, R.S.N. Singh, and several universities. I keep traveling all over India and abroad for lectures. So there's a very short introduction about what I am and what I do. So I lead an organization called as Historika, and this organization is dedicated to bring out the history, the real history, right? So that's why, and we have named it also in that way, with the vision that we will work on history. So recently there was a big controversy. All of you might be aware that a famous politician from Tamil Nadu gave this statement that we need to destroy Sanatana Dharma, right? He even said that just like we destroy malaria and we try to destroy malaria, we should also destroy Sanatana Dharma. It's kind of a disease. Okay, so many such groups are there who really hate and dislike the ancient religion of Bharat, the ancient culture of Bharat, its philosophy, its way of living, and all. Right. So one of the major narratives which they promote is that the Mahabharata and Ramayana are myth. Now we are in that era after 500 years of the temple not being there. Finally, we are seeing that the temple is coming up in Ayodhya. Big things are happening, and obviously after Ramayana, the next question is the Mahabharata myth or history? So we are very happy about the the Ram temple coming up in Ayodhya, and this is also an important thing for the practitioners of Sanatana Dharma, is the Mahabharata myth or history, right? So the groups which really hate Bharat, which really hate Sanatana Dharma, they like to promote that Mahabharata is a mythology. So I went deeper into this subject matter, and I tried to analyze whether it's really historical or fictional, purely from the point of historical evidences and so on. So some other politicians again from South India, they say we have come to destroy Aryanism, and Aryan religion is connected to Sanatana Dharma. And they try to say that the Tamils have no connection to Sanatana Dharma, right? The Tamils are different and the North Indians are different. Both of us have no connections, both of them have no connections whatsoever. So this is a narrative which is very prominently spread in South India. And also we have cases like these, where Rumila Thapa, the so-called leading historian of India, she says that Yudhishthir was inspired by Ashoka. Now, what could be more, interesting? I say it sarcastically. What could be more interesting than this? That she says that Yudhishthir was inspired by Ashoka, whereas in reality, Yudhishthir existed several thousand years ago. He did not come, after Buddha or after Yudhishthir. Sorry, Yudhishthir did not come after Buddha or after Ashoka. Yudhishthir was much before. Okay, so in no ways Yudhishthir can be inspired by Ashoka. It could be the other way around. But Madam has this famous video where she says Yudhishthir could have been inspired by Ashoka. So this is the kind of scholarship which we have, unfortunately, and that was being taught in the education system. Millions have been influenced by, this kind of, trainings which are coming in Indian history and education. So in reality, if you see, there is a book called Kunal Jātaka, which I'll be speaking in the lecture today. It speaks of Yudhishthir as the son of Pandu. Now, how interesting is this? Because Yudhishthir as the son of Pandu, and then we have Ashoka converting to Buddhism. Okay, so how come Yudhishthir can be placed after Ashoka? It doesn't fit even the most simplest of common sense, but that is what is lacking nowadays, unfortunately. So what are the facts? The facts is that are Tamils different? Are Tamils disconnected from Mahabharata? Have Tamils have any connections with the Mahabharata? So I tried to do an in-depth research on the ancient Tamil Sangam literatures. Right, the Tamil Sangam literatures are totally 18 plus 18. 18 earlier Sangam and the 18 later Sangam literatures. So totally there are 36 Sangam literatures. And then we have the Aim Perum Kavyangal, the 5 Kavya literatures. And then we have the grammatical text called as Tolkappiyam. So this is the overall background of the Tamil literatures, ancient Tamil literatures. Now, this literature, Perumpana Trupade, which belongs to the earlier Sangam literature, it says that the 5 heroes with well-decorated chariots who never lost a war destroyed the 100 in battle. So it's obvious and a clear reference to the Mahabharata war, right? So now we could ask the same politician, how come you said that the Tamils are not connected to the Mahabharata? But see, we have a clear reference in the ancient Tamil literature. Then we have another very specific reference from Kalitogai, poem 101, line 15 to 20, which refers to a fight between an elephant and a tiger, right? It says, the elephant with a long tusk. So it basically describes a scenario in which an elephant and a tiger are fighting with each other, and the tiger is leaping from behind and attacking the elephant. And the elephant is turning its head around and killing the tiger. As you can see this is a very thematic way we have drawn it. It's not like coming from the past. We have imagined and drawn what the poet is trying to say. So you can see the elephant is turning its head and thrusting its tusk into the chest of the tiger, right? So this kind of a description is there in the ancient Sangam literature by the name of Kalitogai. Now, Kalitogai describes that the battle between Bhima and Duryodhan was also like this, right? When we say Bhima, it's a clear analogy. He's being compared to the elephant, and Duryodhan is being compared to the tiger. Now, this is also very interesting because Bhima is known to be the strong man, the strong person here, and Duryodhan is known to be the skillful person, because Duryodhan was skillful because he was trained by he was trained by Balramji, and Bhim was more powerful. So there was the battle of natures between Bhim and Duryodhan was a battle between skill and power, right? So that's the whole thing which was. So that's being beautifully narrated here in ancient Sangam literature, like an elephant fighting with a tiger, and elephant ultimately winning. He is thrusting his tusk into the chest of the tiger. So that's how this analogy is being given in Kalitogai. Then we have the episode of Lakshagriha, the Lakshagriha episode. So Kalitoke again refers in his poem that a forest fire is raging, an elephant is hastily saving its herd from the flames. Right? Again, an elephant example. Right? The elephant is saving its herd in a forest fire. And while explaining this scene, the poet compares this episode with the Lakshagriha episode, the burning of the wax house. We all know the story of the burning of the wax house. Duryodhan tried to trap the Pandavas and burn them alive in the wax house, right? So they escaped because they went inside the underground tunnel and they escaped, right? So that's being explained again here. That's being given as explained as an analogy in the Kalitoge. So again, a reference to the Mahabharata episode. Then there is this famous reference where a Pandya king, we all know that the three famous dynasties of ancient South India, Chera, Chola, Pandya. So Pandyas are one among them. So the Pandya king, one of the Pandya kings is being compared, right, with Krishna, right? Another being compared with Balram. So Purananuru 56.3 up till 7 glorifies the prowess of a Pandya king. Right, a Pandya king is being glorified, and he's being compared with various gods, including Krishna and Balram. Right, and this poem also describes Balram's body. We all know Balram is white in color and Krishna is dark in color. Right, so in that sense, Balram's one particular king who is very bright, he's being compared to Balram, and another king who is dark, he's being compared to Krishna. So that's also very interesting that the Pandya kings are being glorified in comparison with Krishna and Balram. Of course, they are not Krishna and Balram, but in the sense that they are being glorified, that they are appearing like Krishna and Balram, very powerful. Okay, so then we see the poetic attributes of landscapes. So what's happening in the Tolkappiyam, which is the most ancient available grammatical text in Tamil. So we have the divisions of land. So ancient Tamil lands are being divided into 5 sections: Kurunji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai. So Kurunji, when we say Kurunji, that's one type of land, and Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai. So each particular land type, right? Like for example, Mullai is a forest land. So the god of the forest is Mayon. Mayon is the name of Krishna or Vishnu, right? And Kurunji, the god is Cheyon. And then we have Marudam, which is Vendan, which is Indra, and Neidal, which is Kadalon, Varuna. Palai, the god is Kotravi, which is Durga, and Kurunji, which I forgot to say, is Seyon, the god is Indra. So all these are Vedic gods, Vedic Devtas, Vedic gods. They are being mentioned in the Tolkappiyam. Now, how come this is some different religion or different culture? If anybody could explain that to me, could enlighten me, how this could be a different culture or a religion, how this is disconnected from North India. It is not possible. Right. So when we speak of the Tamil literature, we divide them into these categories. Ancient Tamil literature, we have the grammatical text called as Ilakkanam, divided into Tolkappiyam and Agathiyam. Primarily 2 texts, Tolkappiyam and Agathiyam. Tolkappiyam was written by Tolkappiyar. His guru was Agastya Rishi, who is in Tamil known as Agatya Munivar. So Agatya Muni wrote this book by the name of Agathiyam, which is now lost, but we have Tolkappiyam. Okay, so we have a lot of references to Krishna in Tolkappiyam. Then we have the Tamil Sangam literatures, which is also called as Sangailakyam. So Sangailakyam has 18 earlier texts known as Padinettu Melkanakku Noolgal, and then we have the 18 later texts which are known as Padinettu Keelkanakku Noolgal. So then we have the 5 grammatical texts called as the Aim Perum Kabyangal, the 5 Kavya literatures, Silapadikara, Manimekalai, and so on. So when we see the entire corpus, the entire Tamil Sangam corpus, we find that it is obvious that the Tamils never considered themselves as disconnected from North India, disconnected from Mahabharata, disconnected from Krishna or Vishnu, right? Because generally what the British historians tried to do during their period is that they tried to portray Vedic or Vaishnavism from north and Shaivism from south. Like Dravida south, Vaishnava north. But this is such a parody, considering the fact that we have Shiva temples all across, North India, and we have the maximum number of Vaishnava temples in South India. So there was no such thing as, North is holding Vedic or Vaishnavism, and south is purely Dravidian and Shaivism. There was no such thing, right? The pan-India, we had Sanatana religion, which had different perspectives, right? So that's all about it. But they tried to create this. So one thing we clearly understand is that the Tamil Sangam literatures do not show a divisive perspective. They show the religion and culture of the Tamils during the Sangam period is clearly Vedic. Okay. So now coming to the Mahabharata as a text. So Mahabharata and Ramayana, they are known as Itihāsa, right? The Mahabharata is known as Itihāsa, one of the Itihāsas. What does it mean by Itihāsa? Thus so happened. If we say in Hindi, aisa hua tha, very colloquial way, if we have to say aisa hua tha. So if any text is calling themselves as aise hua tha or thus so happened, so how can we call it a mythology in the first sense? Because the person who named it that way has given this naming itself that, please consider it that it has happened, right? It's not mythology. So confirming from that, the Chandogya Upanishad of the Rig Veda refers to Itihas and Puran as the fifth Veda. Now, considering the fact, Itihas is being referred to as the fifth Veda. Why would the Upanishad, such an important Upanishad, as important as the Chandogya Upanishad, refer to Itihasa as the fifth Veda? So it clearly shows that the concept of an Itihas is very ancient and it is existing during the Vedic period, right? The Upanishad identifies the histories, okay, as the fifth Veda. So if I have to read the verse, it says, name indeed is Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samveda, and Atharvana as the fourth, and the Itihas Purana as the fifth. Right? So clearly, the tradition of glorifying Itihasas and giving them due importance during the Vedic period, we can see that. So it is not that, during the Vedic period, we have only the Veda and the Mahabharata is being developed at a later period of time. There is no such thing. Right? The Itihasas are clearly texts which are existing during the Vedic period, if we have to call a period any such period like that. So, when the Vedas are being penned down, it's very obvious that they were aware of the Mahabharata. Okay, so a 2,000-year-old Greek reference. Now, why this is important? Because we are being taught that the Mahabharata is just 1,000 or 1,500. Some even give estimates of 2,000. And some other estimates, they say 2,500 or 2,800 at the max, right? Those who are those historians from the West, and they generally like to portray Mahabharata as 2,900 years old and painted graveyard culture and so on. But in general, people like to believe that the Mahabharata is just 1,000 or 1,500 years old. Why they do so? Because the oldest available manuscript of the Mahabharata is around 1,000 years old. Right? So the oldest available manuscript of the Mahabharata is 1,000 years old, and therefore the Mahabharata is just 1,000 years old. This logic is so absurd. Because consider the fact that I may have a book written by Kalidas, right? It's not the manuscript, right? It is the shlokas of Kalidas, which are available in the form of a book with me right now. And I cannot say that Kalidas is, living now, just because I have his book reprinted. So similarly, the manuscripts of the Mahabharata, which are the oldest manuscripts of the Mahabharata, which are available today, may not be the actually oldest manuscripts of the Mahabharata. Because we have this tradition of recopying. We copy it because the manuscripts do get old, they may get damaged, they may get torn, or they might face issues in terms of sustenance. So we will have to recopy them. Right? So therefore, the oldest manuscripts of the Mahabharata is 1,000 years old, but the Mahabharata itself is not 1,000 years old. Right? Because the message is old, the medium is new. The message is old, the medium is new. That's why we find in the 2,000-year-old Greek reference given by Greek writer Dion Chrysostom, he says that the Indians possessed an epic like an Iliad of 100,000 verses, 1 lakh verses. And the only epic which is 1 lakh verses is the Mahabharata. Right? He uses the word Iliad in exchange of epic. For him, the word Iliad was exchangeable with the word epic. So he says that the Indians possess an epic of 100,000 verses. So together with the Harivamsha, the Mahabharata does add up to this total. But there no other text in India or no other epic in the world is 1 lakh verses except the Mahabharata. So this is a clear reference, a 2,000-year-old reference, where a Greek writer is saying that the Indians possess an Iliad an epic of 100,000 verses. So, generally in India, there are a lot of people who do not accept the traditional text. They say, oh, if some Greek sources have given, if some West Asian sources have given, if some Chinese sources have given, then we would accept that. So here we go. This is a Greek source, accept it. Right? So Mahabharata is more than 2,000 years old. So the Gṛhya Sutras of Āśvalāyana. Āśvalāyana Gṛhya Sutra again is linked to the Rig Veda. So in this Āśvalāyana Gṛhya Sutra, we have references of two books, the Bharata and the Mahabharata. So Adhyaya 3, Kandika 4 and Sutra number 4 reads, Sumanta Jaimini Vaishampayana Paila Sutra Bhashya Bharat Mahabharat. Right? These two texts were available, right, during the period of compilation of the Gṛhya Sutras of Āśvalāyana. Right? So this is obvious that during the compilation of the Gṛhya Sutras, the authors were aware of these two books, Bharat and Mahabharata. So we all know that the Mahabharata speaks of three recensions. First, there was the Jaya, which is 8,800 verses. Then there was the Bharat, which is 24,000 verses. Then we have the Mahabharata, which is 100,000 verses. Right? So these texts were being studied by the householders, Gṛhya Sutra. So Gṛhya basically means home. So it was being practiced in home. So one of the aspects of following the Gṛhya Sutras, as we see in this verse, is that people used to read, right? They used to read these texts, Bharat and the Mahabharata. So one thing is clear, that the Mahabharata is not some 1,000, 2,000, 2,500-year-old text. It's very ancient. So this is the Tikla rock art of Madhya Pradesh. So here you can see Balramji is holding a plow in his one hand, and Krishna is holding a mace and a wheel. Right? So one thing is obvious in that. So there's a small correction here. Krishna is holding a chakra and Balramji is holding a plow. There was no mace here. There's a small typing mistake here. Yeah, and the female deity, most likely, some believe it is Subhadra, some believe it is Ekanamsa. But anyway, it's a female deity, most likely either Ekanamsa or Subhadra. So Balramji is holding a plow in one hand and Krishna is holding a wheel in his hand. So this is the most ancient rock art referring to Krishna and Balram. So this is found in Madhya Pradesh. If anybody likes to visit, please do visit this place. Fascinating site, which contains the proof that Krishna and Balram, these are not some figures, some personalities who were invented recently. They are very ancient. So this is the Moravel inscription found in Vrindavan, Mathura district, UP. So this is a 2,200-year-old inscription referring to the 5 Vrishnis. So just like the 5 Pandavas, the 5 Vrishnis were very famous. Panchavir Vrishni, they were known as, right? So when you travel from Vrindavan, when you go towards Govardhan, there is a small village, it's called as Mora. So in this village Mora, they found inside a well an inscription. So we all know what is an inscription. An inscription is written on the surface of a wall, a pillar, and it stays for thousands of years. So this is a 2,200-year-old inscription, which refers to the Panchavir Vrishni, the 5 Vrishnis. And who are these 5 Vrishnis? Right? That data we can find it in this panel called as Kondamattu panel. This is a 1,700-year-old sculptural panel depicting the 5 Vrishni heroes, the 5 heroes of the Vrishni clan. So now again, we have in the inscription, we have the name of the 5 Vrishnis and we have a panel which depicts the 5 Vrishnis. But who are these 5 Vrishnis? That answer is given in the Vayu Purana, right? So what we understand is that what is given in the literature is being confirmed in a panel and it's being confirmed in an inscription. So the 5 Vrishni heroes are Balram, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Samba, and Aniruddha. So these are the 5 Vrishni heroes which are mentioned in the Vayu Purana. These 5 Vrishni heroes are being carved in a panel in Andhra Pradesh, and those 5 Vrishnis are being referred in an 2,200-year-old inscription. So the tradition of 5 great heroes is not just limited to the 5 Pandavas, it was also famous for the 5 Vrishnis, right? The 5 Vrishnis, so 5 Yadavas. Okay, so moving on. So what about the Kurus? Now we saw about the Yadavas. What about the Kurus? Are the Kurus historical? So when we study the Kuru family lineage, we see famous kings. We know that Bhishma did not marry, right? And there was Vichitravirya, who is the father of Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidur. And Vichitravirya's father was Shantanu, and his father was Pratipa. And Pratipa had three sons, Devapi, Shantanu, and Bahalika. Right? Devapi, he did not marry. He went to the forest and became a muni or a recluse or tapasvi, however you may call it. Right? Devapi. And Shantanu, he was the king. He was the king of the Kurus. And his other son, Vichitravirya, he took over the throne after his father. And after Vichitravirya, it was Dhritarashtra and Pandu alternating between the throne. So this is the entire family lineage from Pratipa all the way till the Pandavas, and then we have Pandu, and then we have everyone died. All the five sons of Pandus, they died. Only Abhimanyu survived. Only the son of Abhimanyu survived. Parikshit survived, and Parikshit's son was Janamejaya. So that lineage only survived. Everybody else was killed, right, in the Mahabharata battle. So this is the family lineage of the Kurus. Now, are these Kurus historical? Was there really people named Kurus? Did they really exist? Were Pandavas historical? Was Dhritarashtra historical? Let's look into this. So this is from Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda, where Dhritarashtra is being mentioned as son of Vichitravirya. That's very interesting. Dhritarashtra is mentioned as son of Vichitravirya. And in Mahabharata also, he's son of Vichitravirya. Right? Now, generally, those some people in India, some groups in India, and also some academicians outside, they like to believe the Veda as more authentic and Mahabharata is not that authentic. They believe that no, whatever is there in the Veda, we can give it high priority or high importance because it's more solid, it's more historical, where it might contain more history, whereas the Mahabharata cannot be believed fully. So, Veda is generally given a higher authority, right? Be it traditional or non-traditional sources or non-traditional people, both of them give importance to the Veda. Now, that's why giving historical evidences for Mahabharata or for Mahabharata characters from the Veda, it's very important. So, this particular personality, Dhritarashtra, is being called as son of Vichitravirya. We all know in the Mahabharata that he is son of Vichitravirya. It is obvious. But the Krishna Yajurveda also says that he is son of Vichitravirya. Right? Dhritarashtra, the son of Vichitravirya. And he is being mentioned as a ruler of Kuru Panchal region. In the Yajurveda. In the Mahabharata, we have the same thing, that during a short span, Dhritarashtra was the king of the Kurus. And Panchalas was also, in some part, they were subordinate to the Kurus, and so they are immediately next to the Kurus. So that's one thing. And then Dhritarashtra is being mentioned as a descendant of the Bharatas, the Bharatavamshi. Okay, so even this Dhritarashtra, the Mahabharata's Dhritarashtra, is also a king in the lineage of the Bharatavamshi. Whereas in the Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda, we do not have the mention of the descendants who came after Dhritarashtra is not mentioned in the Yajurveda, whereas the Mahabharata is clear that he was the father of the Kauravas. Then we have also his brother Pandu, his son Pandavas, Arjuna, Abhimanyu, and so on. So what we find is that the Mahabharata explains the chronology before Dhritarashtra and also after Dhritarashtra, whereas in the Krishna Yajurveda, the chronology stops with Dhritarashtra. Right? But the personality is same. Historically, we do not find any other person who was son of Vichitravirya, who was ruling Kuru Panchal region, who was a descendant of the Bharatavamsha. There is no way that it could be any other person except the Dhritarashtra of the Mahabharata. Right? So there you go. We do have a historical reference of a Mahabharata character in the Veda. So this is a very famous inscription, which is called as the Heliodorus column, also known as the Besnagar column. This is in Madhya Pradesh, in the district Vidisha. So this particular inscription was carved by a traveler coming from Takshashila. Right? So in this inscription, we find the reference to Krishna Krishna is being mentioned as, let me just read out the translation. So this Garuda pillar of Vasudev, the god of gods, was constructed here by Heliodorus, the Bhagavat, the son of Dion of Takshashila, the Greek ambassador. Okay, you have the translation here also. The Greek ambassador who came from the great king Amtalikita, right, to King Kashiputra Bhagabhadra, the savior, prospering in his 14th year. So basically, in a very simple form, what this inscription is trying to say is that Heliodorus is a traveler, is a messenger coming from Takshashila, right, where the Takshaka Naga was being sacrificed during the period of Janamejaya, during the Mahabharata period. So that particular region, from that region, this particular personality by the name of Heliodorus, he is coming. And he is, while going to Kashi, he stops at Besnagar, and he constructs this pillar. It's most likely that he has renovated an ancient temple, and also he constructed a pillar. And on that pillar, he gave his details. He says that I am Heliodorus Bhagavat. Bhagavat basically means a devotee, right? He was a devotee of Krishna, and he came from Takshashila to meet King Kashiputra Bhagabhadra during his 14th year. So there you go. We find the most ancient inscription is before the period of Christ. Now I'll tell you at the end why it is important to show evidences of Krishna, Mahabharata before so-called common era or so-called Christ era, right? So then we have the Nanaghat cave inscriptions, date and location. This is 2nd century BC from Nanaghat, Western Ghats, Maharashtra. So this inscription records the sacrifices performed by Satakarni and Naganika of the Satavahana kingdom. So this inscription begins, Namo Samkrishna Vasudevanam Chamda Sutanam Mahivatanam. Basically it says, glories to the two sons, descendants of the moon dynasty, Chandra Vamsha, Samkrishna and Vasudeva. So there is no other way that this could be any other persons. Like it cannot be Vishnu and Ananta Shesha. All that cannot be said because they are descendants, they are sons, they are born, they are appearing in the dynasties of the Chandra Vamsha, right? So clearly it's a historical reference to Balram and Krishna. Balram, who is also known as Samkrishna, Krishna, who is also known as Vasudeva. Then we have these famous coins from Afghanistan, formerly known as Gandhar. It also had a region of Balika, which I'll explain at the end. So Gandhar region, from the Gandhar region, we have this famous coin called as the Agathocles coins. Now, Agathocles coins has very interesting iconographic details. If you watch carefully, I'm moving my cursor here. You can see here, this particular text, if you read it out, it says Vasudev. And the personality here is carrying a chakra. So I released a video, like I gave a podcast in one channel. And when they interviewed me, I explained that this particular personality here is Krishna, right? Krishna of the Mahabharata period, Krishna who spoke the Bhagavad Gita. He is famous he was famous all the way up till Afghanistan. That was my point when I tried to portray that in the podcast. So what they did is that they cut a specific portion of that podcast, where I explained these coins, and they made it, they spread it on social media. It became viral, more than 1 million views and all that. So many of these, neo personalities, if I may call them the neo-Buddhist, not the real Buddhist, the neo-Buddhist. So the neo-Buddhist started attacking, saying that, no, this is not Krishna of the Mahabharata period. How can you say like that? Gandhar was ruled by the Buddhist. It was a Buddhist land, which later got converted to Islam. No, there is no way that Krishna was worshipped or Krishna was held in high reverence in regions like Afghanistan. So you could definitely counter that way. You could say, okay, this is Vasudev. Some of them were even saying that there was an ancient king called Vasudeva who was a Buddhist king who was ruling there, and therefore this coin is referring to the King Vasudeva of Buddhist, a Buddhist king by the name of Vasudeva who's ruling in Afghanistan. Okay, but the problem here is that there was another coin which was found very near to this coin, and in this coin we can see here it's written Samkrishna. You could say that some of them were even saying that this chakra is Dharma chakra, it cannot be Krishna's Sudarshan chakra and all that. So fine. So if that is the case, then why does this line referred to Samkarshana. Here in this line, we find reference to Samkarshana, right? Samkarshana. So Samkarshana is the name of Balram, and here we find that he is holding a plow, gada. And here we find that he's holding a plow, and here we find that he's holding a gada, mace. So plow and a mace, we know that his famous weapon is the plow, and we find that we also know that his famous weapon is also the gada, because he was a teacher of Duryodhana. Now, can anybody tell that how this could be a king named Samkarshana was ruling in Afghanistan? There is no such way that anybody can say like that. So it's obvious beyond doubt that the king Agathocles, who was ruling there, he held Krishna and Balram in high regard, and he released these coins in respect for them. Of course, Buddhism was prominent in that region as well, no doubt about that. But we cannot say that Krishna and Balram were not famous or not revered in regions like Afghanistan. There's no such possibility, as we can see in these coins. So these coins are found in 2nd century BC, Ikonom, Takhar province, Afghanistan. The two divinities, right, are clearly Krishna and Balram. So then we have Hathigumpha inscriptions of Kharavela, again likely to be around 2100 years or more, or maybe around 2000 years old. So this inscription refers to King Kharavela, and it compares the activities of King Kharavela with the childhood activities of Krishna. Now we have some people trying to distinguish Krishna's childhood activities, childhood leelas, like whatever he did in Mathura, Vrindavan. They try to say no, these are all mythological, they were created in a later period of time, only the Mahabharata war is real. We also have people like that who say such things. So, but the reality is that the childhood activities, the Mathura, Vrindavan stories of Krishna were very famous. They are not something new which were later crafted by the Alvars and all that. There's no such proof for that. That's why we have Hathigumpha inscriptions of Kharavela clearly depicting the childhood activities of Krishna, which indicates that this was very famous much before 2000 years. So then we have the Gṛhya Jātaka, again confirming this fact that the childhood stories of Krishna were very ancient. They're not imagined or created at a later period of time. Gṛhya Jātaka, a very ancient Buddhist text, 2300 years old. So it gives many similar similarities, like with this version of the Puranas, right? Like the Bhagavad Puran, Vishnu Puran, and all that. So whatever is found in these Puranas are also found in the Gṛhya Jātaka and other Jātakas. So in the Gṛhya Jātaka, we have Kamsa is the king of Uttarapatha. His sister is Devaki, and Devagabha, right? Who's Devaki basically. She has two sons, Vasudeva and Baldev. These two sons are exchanged with the children of Nandagopa. This is basically Nanda, right? King Nanda, or Nanda, the cowherd, the head of the cowherds in Mathura, in Vrindavan, in Gokul. So then Vasudeva and Baldev return, and they are engaged. They grow up and they come back to Mathura and they fight with Kamsa and they win, right? So Baldev fights Chanura, Vasudeva fights Muthika, it's Mushtika. They defeat Kamsa, and then they arrive at Dwaravati. That's very interesting. You see, 2300 years old Gṛhya Jātaka, a Buddhist text, is referring to Dwaravati. Dwaravati is basically another name of Dwaraka. We find the name Dwaravati in the Mahabharata. This is another name for Dwaraka. So the Dwaraka as a city is very famous, even during the Buddhist period, right? When the Buddhist texts are being compiled. So then this Gṛhya Jātaka also refers that the Dwaraka, they settle at Dwaravati, make it their home, they rule there, and then at the end they have a final battle where most of them kill each other. This is exactly in line with the Mahabharata and the Puranas. But of course, there are some versions, some adaptations of Mahabharata version and the Puranic version. They have given some Buddhist adaptation to it. That is their understanding. But the real deal is that they accepted Mahabharata, Krishna, Pandavas as historical. That's what matters most here. So then we have Kunal Jātak, 2300 years old. This Jātak, right, it refers to the 5 sons of Pandu: Arjuna, Nakula, Bhimasena, Yudhishthira, and Sahadeva. So they are clearly Arjun, Nakul, Bhimsen, Yudhishthira, and Sahadeva. And then the Swayamvara ceremony is also narrated in this Jātaka and all that. So now my question is to this famous historian who came in the beginning. I would like to ask her, how could you say that Ashoka, was a source of inspiration for Yudhishthir? Matlab, how Yudhishthir can be inspired by Ashoka in the wildest of the dreams? How is it possible? Because we have Kunal Jatak, then we have Ashoka getting converted to Buddhism, right? Right. First, Kunal Jataka is coming first. Then we have Ashoka, who is studying these Buddhist texts. He's converting to Buddhism. And then how can you place Yudhishthira after this? Because before Ashoka, there are these texts, Jataka texts, and they are mentioning Yudhishthira. So how come you can place Yudhishthira after Kunal Jataka or after Ashoka? It's not possible at all. Such is the messed up chronology that is being taught in our education system, which is an unfortunate situation in India. Now, what about the Yadus? Yes, Yadus were also historical. We find references throughout the Vedic literature for a group of people by the name of Yadus or Yadavas. And Krishna is belonging to the Yadu Vamsha. Then we have these 16 Mahajanapadas of the Buddhist period. So what happens during the Buddhist period is that the 16 Mahajanapadas, Kashi, Koshal, Anga, Magadha, Vajji, Malla, Cheri, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchal, Matsya, Shursen, Asaka, which is basically Ashmaka, Avanti, Gandhar, Kamboja. These are the 16 Mahajanapadas, the 16 powerful kingdoms which were active during the Buddhist period. Now, when you noticed, many of these names were already existing Mahajanapadas coming down from the period of the Mahabharata. If I may have to expound upon it, many of these kingdoms, like the Kashi kingdom, the Magadha kingdom, Anga was ruled by Karna, right? Kuru was ruled by the Pandavas, right? Panchal was ruled by, the Panchalas who were there during the Mahabharata period. Matsya was ruled by King Virata. Shursen, the Yadu Vamsha, was ruled by Yadu kingdom was ruled by King Shurasena. Then comes Ugrasena and all. So that's still there, still famous in Mathura. Shorsena, and then Ashmaka, Avanti, Gandhari is coming from this. So all these Mahajanapadas were existing much before the Buddhist period, and the Mahabharata stories are intrinsically connected with these Mahajanapadas. So when Buddhism is coming into the picture, these Janapadas were already existing. Some of them have been lost, like whatever there during the Mahabharata period. Many of the Janapadas were lost, and newer Janapadas got created. That is fine, but you can see in this list that most of them are coming down from the Mahabharata period. In other words, Buddhism is a sequel, right? It's a later tradition which is coming after the Mahabharata period, and it is giving clear historical evidences of the existence of a kingdom named Kuru, of the existence of the kingdom named Kashi, kingdom named Shursen, Matsya. These are all historical kingdoms which were there during the Mahabharata period. So if the Mahabharata geography is historical, right, only then this will match, right? So in other words, the Buddhist texts are very clear about a continuous historical geography. We have geography, then we have a historical geography. Historical geography means ancient geography. When we say continuous historical geography, it's a continuous, transformation from one Janapad to another Janapada. So what we find in the Buddhist text is an existence of these kingdoms which are there during the Mahabharata period, and they were continuing from the Mahabharata period. Some of them destroyed, some of them created new. Then we have the historical Kurus, which I spoke in the beginning. So I'll just skip on with this slide. But just to give a quick idea, that Kurus are ancient dynasties and people who are mentioned in the Brahmana literatures, in the Veda, in the Mahabharata, and many other texts. So they, in no sense, the Kurus can be mythological or imaginary. They were existing during the Mahabharata period, during the Buddhist period, and also later. So these are various references all the way up till Panini, and then Chandogya Upanishad, and the Rig Veda, Taittiriya Aranyaka, and many other texts in the Buddhist literature. We have tons and tons of historical references, be it literature, inscriptions, and so on, which clearly shows that there was an ancient kingdom by the name of Kuru. Okay. So what about other kingdoms like Kunti Bhoja? Right, we all know that Kunti, the mother of Pandavas, she was from this kingdom known as Kunti Bhoja. Right, so Kunti Bhoja again, it's a historical kingdom, right? So evidences of that we could find in the Brahmana literatures and so on. Then we have Bhalika, very famous king Bhalika. If you remember, I showed earlier in this presentation that King Pratipa had three sons: Devapi, Shantanu, and Bhalika. The third one was Bhalika. So the third one's descendants, matlab Bhalika's descendants, settled as far as Afghanistan. Right? The Bhalikas are famous historical kingdoms, right? They're not mythological or imaginary. They're mentioned in the Atharva Veda, they're mentioned in the Mahabharata. Natya Shastras are aware of the Bhalika kingdoms, right? So they went and settled, like you can see here, this is the Kashmir, India's Kashmir, and then this is the country Pakistan, and this is the country called Afghanistan today. And here, the north of it, we have this region, this district called as Bhalika, this region called as Balkh. No, sorry, this is currently called as Balkh. This gets its name from Bhalika. And Bhalika is the brother of Shantanu. Now you can imagine that a Kuru kingdom is going and settling all the way into northern Afghanistan. What is the condition now? It is completely disconnected from Bharat, completely disconnected from Mahabharata, its history, its culture. They are completely lost to their ancient culture. So, speaking to deities, speaking about sculptures, we also have ancient sculptures about Krishna, Balram, and Ekanaamsa. Some identify the lady figure as Subhadra, but anyway, so these three figures are also very ancient sculptures are found, because sculptures have a somewhat lesser durability compared to inscriptions. So anyway, we are fortunate to have a 2,200-year-old sculpture where Balram is holding a plow, Krishna is holding his traditional weapon of chakra and shankha. So Indians produce only myths. This is what was being promoted by British historians, British scholars, right? This is he was not that famous, but this particular statement was quite the mentality of the colonials who were ruling India. So Indians produce only myths. Indians cannot understand that our religion, Christianity, is a universal religion for earth, and that Indians, can only produce mere fables and fantasies. So this was a mentality that the Indians cannot have anything good, Indians cannot have anything historical, Indians cannot have anything factual. So this was the mindset of the British colonials who were ruling in India. So this reference can be found in the book Oriental Renaissance by Raymond Squab. So this particular theory was being floated around, right? That Krishna is from Christ. Now, what could be more funny than this, right? That's why I showed throughout the presentation that we have ancient inscriptions going back much before the period of Christ. We have coins before the period of Christ. We have literatures going back before the period of Christ, before the so-called Christ era or common era. So we have inscriptions, literature, we have coins all the way going back much before this era. We have references to the personality Krishna. So how can he be derived from Christ? But that was being promoted during the British colonial period. There are research papers which were released like this. Can you just see the title of the text? It says Christian elements in later Krishnaism and other Hinduistic sects. Christian elements in later Krishnaism, which they're basically trying to say that Christianity had an influence to play in later Krishnaism. They're very tricky in using the word later Krishnaism, right? Because if you say earlier Krishnaism, then the entire research paper would become a paradox. Why? Because Krishnaism is much ancient, much before Christ, right? Krishna Bhakti or devotion to Krishna, the Bhakti tradition is much before the period of Christ, much before the period of Christ. So then they introduced this just added this word later Krishnaism. The later Krishna Bhakti is influenced by Christ. But the real, if you see any radical preacher, he would not say later Krishnaism. He will say Christ is the source of Krishna. Krishna was derived by Christ. So that's the kind of absurdity It's being followed in the scholarly line nowadays. That's unfortunate. And this is also used in a lot during forceful conversions when people are being cheated. Oh, no, Krishna is an imaginary figure. There's no such person as Krishna. It was originally Christ. You see, names are also similar. Christ, Krishna, both were preachers of religion. Both gave their own teachings. Both were cowherds. Like Krishna was a cowherd, Jesus was a shepherd. So there are so many similarities. Jesus is the source of Krishna. That's the kind of manipulation which is happening, unfortunately. So, but the reality is that Krishna is much ancient, much before the period of the so-called Christ era. That's the reality. So why we need this kind of research? So of course we have a lot of data coming from archaeology, which I have mentioned in my book. I could quickly show it. I'm getting lost when I'm showing the book. Anyway, I'll be showing it again in the slides. So I have mentioned about the archaeological findings in Dwaraka, Kurukshetra, right, and the Vraj region. What we found in these regions, I have not added them here in this presentation because it would take at least an hour to explain all of them. But I tried to give a journalistic perspective. So those who want to go deeper into this subject, I would persist and request them to take my book, buy it online. It's available. I'll be giving the details at the end of the presentation. So why we need this kind of research? We need this research because Indians are disconnected from their tradition for more than 1,000 years, from their roots. More than 1,000 years, we are under continuous attacks from abroad. Right? And the easiest way to discard a religion is just call it a mythology. Just say it is myth. In Hindi, we say kalpanik hai, imaginary. Then your entire foundation is broken. So that's why this mythology narrative was being floated around heavily. Why? Because easiest way, why you're reading Bhagavad Gita, why you're reading Mahabharata, Veda, and all that. This is not mythology. Don't believe it. So when you use that mythology thing, you can break the entire narrative. That's why it's very dangerous. That's why when something is real, it would have its historical impact. It would have its historical imprints. It will have its historical proofs. Mahabharata is a real event which happened in the distant past. So that evidence is being recorded in my book, Mahabharata Myth of History. So why it's important? Because we have to discover how glorious was Bharatvarsh, how wide it was, how spread it was, and youngsters gaining faith and understanding the importance of their culture, philosophy, and tradition, which was given by our ancestors. And following the Bhagavad Gita would also reduce the social ills. Like a lot of the social ills which are existing today are because people do not understand the greater teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Vedas in their life. So that faith is built when people understand that this is not mythology, this is actual history. So what is unique about this research is that there is no complex mathematical, astronomical, and archaeological analysis. Like if you see many of these scholars, with due respect to them, I have nothing against them personally, but if you read their books, you find very difficult to understand. Like in Hindi, if you can say, "Arey, bolna kya cha rahe ho?" What do you want to say? So sometimes they complicate it so much that the common man is not able to get the point, right? So I have kept that in mind that we want this message to reach the common man. So the common man has to understand that, see, this is not mythology, this is history. As simple as that. So all data collected from 300 data points collected from 1,000 plus academic citations backed up by 5+ years of extensive research. This book has that all, right? So this is a handbook for the Hindus to defend their dharmic history, and it's a very unique book. It has multiple disciplines. It has multiple disciplines, not just one field like astronomy, just one field of archaeology, just one field of mathematical analysis, mathematical equations, or not any of that sorts. It has multiple academic data to prove that single point that the Mahabharata is not mythology, it is actual history. So these are my contact details if anybody would like to contact us. The book is also available on this website, historica.org, historika.org, and it's also available on Amazon. These are my contact details. These are some photos. So that's it. So I end my session here. If anybody has any questions, you can please ask me.
Murli ji has asked, what's the connection between South and Mahabharata? I think that was in a very detailed way explained, but would you give it another go, please?
Yeah. I would also give it another perspective as well. apart from also giving it another go? That's a very good question. I understand from where this question comes. So yes, the references are there in the Mahabharata about, the references to the Mahabharata war are available in the ancient Sangam literature. That's a fact, no doubt about that. But we also have references of the Tamil kings participating in the Mahabharata war. That is important, right? So that is what is important. So what I have done in my research is that I have proven that the Tamil kings have also participated in the Mahabharata war. This particular point is mentioned in the Mahabharata itself. In Mahabharata, we find that the Pandya kings are fighting in the Mahabharata war, right? So that is mentioned in the Mahabharata text. So the Cholas are also connecting their history to either Mahabharata or Ramayana. Pandyas are also connecting their history. So in that sense, how is South related to North? It is related because their history, they are connecting through inscription, through literature, and through many other sources. They're connecting their history all the way till the Mahabharata, till the Vedic culture, Ramayana, etc. So that way, South is intrinsically connected to North. South cannot be, divided or disconnected from North. In fact, it's the entire Bharatvarsh. It was the entire Bharatvarsh, right? In Bharatvarsh, we had, that entire identity of Bharat, where Yudhishthir was Samrat, Maharaj Yudhishthir was Samrat Yudhishthir, and he was having the the status of an emperor of the entire Bharatvarsh. I hope that answers the question.
There's another question by Pradeep Kumarji, where he's asking that I understand the Mahabharata is 7,000 years old. Mr. Nilesh Oak has spoken on this. What are your thoughts?
With all due respects to Nilesh Ji, I think that his works have been challenged and also being critiqued by several scholars, which can be seen on YouTube and also in archive.org. There are multiple scholars who have heavily critiqued his work, and I have not seen yet a comprehensive reply from him to those critics about the dating of the Mahabharata. That's one thing. And regarding the methodology itself, if you see, the astronomical dating of the Mahabharata works on the principle of interpreting the inscription, interpreting the shlokas of the Mahabharata and trying to fit them in a way to imagine the sky maps. Okay, the sky maps would be like this. This is what is Mahabharata trying to say. But then the problem is that the softwares which are being used do not agree with each other, which I have shown in my book. In chapter 12 of my book, I have clearly shown the discrepancies between two softwares. Now, unfortunately, we have this, many Indians have this tendency, we need a software to validate the Mahabharata. We do not, of course, the software can definitely assist in validating the date of the Mahabharata. But when you find discrepancies, you should be open to question the approach, right? The primary approach is that they take the data and they put it on the software and they say, okay, we found the date of the Mahabharata. It's not as simple or as black and white or as straightforward as that. I'll tell you why. Because one particular date, we tried to show it in one particular software, which is Voyager, and then on another software, Stellarium, going back to 5,000 years. It doesn't match with each other. And both are scientifically accepted, credible softwares. Now, some researchers use a particular software like Voyager, some other use Stellarium, some other use something else. So my point here is that this approach itself needs to be questioned. That's one thing, right? So another point is that Voyager, which is primarily used by Nilesh Ji, the makers of Voyager are questioning, the makers of Voyager have mentioned on their, there is a website, Carina Soft, right? You can check it out. That is related to the Voyager manufacturers. So what they say is that beyond 500 BC, you can expect inaccuracies of 10%. And 10% is a lot, right? So my point is that, yes, the softwares are, very credible. But when you go to ancient periods of time, we do not have data sets to play with. We do not have accurate data sets to play with. So therefore, this methodology is not that fully reliable. Now, then you may ask me, so what is your dating of the Mahabharata? So I primarily depend on the inscriptions. I am sticking myself to the inscriptions because inscriptions are something which have been preserved in this country for in a very rigid manner, in a very straightforward manner. People are following the tradition of dating their culture through inscriptions. Like, for example, if a king is ruling a particular region, he will say, these many years in Kali Yuga, I am constructing this temple. These many years during the Mahabharata war, we are giving this grant. Or these many years in Shaka era, we are doing this particular war, right? So these are different eras which are mentioned in the inscription, and these eras are verifiable. Like in one inscription, you might find 2-3 eras. You might find the Shaka era. Probably I should have shown this the inscriptional evidences of the dating of the Mahabharata as well. But due to lack of time, I have not shown. I recommend all of you to get that book. I have comprehensively explained the dating question of the Mahabharata, which is the most scientifically viable date of the Mahabharata. I've explained that in chapter 12 of my book. So coming to the point, the inscriptions are very specific and clear of the date of the Mahabharata, which is 3101 BCE. So it is inter-verifiable through inscriptions. Like in inscriptions, we have one particular inscription which says, which refers to Shaka era and also Kali era. And another inscription we have Shaka era, Kali era, and Mahabharata era. And another inscription we have Yudhishthira Shaka, which is the year when Yudhishthira again regained the throne. We have two Yudhishthira Shakas, but primarily the famous one is when Yudhishthira took back the throne after the Mahabharata war. So the point what I'm trying to say is that through the inscriptions and also literature, going back to the period of Aryabhatta and all that, this tradition of noting down the year of Mahabharata or year of Kali Yuga, year of the different eras, Shaka era, and all that, this is a very, very ancient tradition. It's not something new which is created at a certain point of time. So I would rather stick with the inscriptional and the era system, which is being coming down for thousands of years, rather than believing the softwares which don't agree with each other. And they also agree that we have inaccuracies. So I would stick with the tradition which is being passed down for thousands of years. So do I agree with Nilesh Ji? I respect Nilesh Ji for his service attitude towards Sanatana Dharma, but I do not agree with the dating of 7,500 approx years.
My name is Ramanadu from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Prabhuji, the way I look, I bought a book of yours. It's very interesting. I have a copy with me. Actually, I have it now. I read the book. It's very, very interesting, Prabhu. But my question now is, could it be possible Japan supported Pandavas? Because still today, Japan is the only country maintaining the title of emperor for the king. That is my question, Prabhu.
I got your question.
Clear?
Yeah, you're clear. I got your question. So, Japan, we do not have any clear reference that Japanese participated in the Mahabharata war. We do not have. So, it is difficult to say exactly. Now, I'll give you one particular point from the Mahabharata's geography. See, Mahabharata has data of more than 360 different people groups or Janapadas. Right? When we say Janapada, it could be approximately a kingdom. So, 360, more than 360. So the point is that among these 300 plus Janapadas or kingdoms or people groups, we have around less than 100 of them are decodable. Like we can fix, okay, these are the Kurus, these are the Matsya, these are the Shursenas, these are the Angas, and these are the Pandyas. So we can fix their location, their identity today, their geography during the Mahabharata period, and their history. All that can be traced, less than 100. But beyond that, the remaining 200 to 50 odd kingdoms or people groups, we cannot trace them. Why? Because most of them have lost their history, invasions, they got converted to different cultures and religions. So we do not have any track whatsoever of these remaining people groups which are mentioned in the Mahabharata. That's one thing. But regarding your specific question, have they participated in the Mahabharata war? No, there is no such evidences of that.
Another question that we have by Saklik Ji is, he's asking, interestingly, in numismatics, we have the coins of Patrajas of Iran bearing names such as Arjun, Bhim Arjun on coins. Can we consider this as evidence of the prevalence of these stories of Itihāsa? Even coins from Banavasi region in Karnataka of 2nd century AD bear legends such as Dharma Maharaja, Vishnu Rudha, and other such references mentioning Vishnu. Can we consider this evidence?
See, what is basically an evidence? An evidence can be of two categories. One is the contemporary evidence and one is the later evidence, right? Contemporary means whatever evidences are coming down from that period. If Mahabharata is said to be 5,000 years, then we need evidences coming to us all the way from 5,000 years. But the real deal is that in India, 90% of archaeological sites are still not excavated. And that's a huge number. You see, 90% is a huge number. So India, from the archaeological perspective, is still massive, huge potential. It's tremendous. It's unbelievable. It's massive. Even Dwarka is not fully excavated. Kurukshetra is fully yet to be mapped and excavated. Right? Even the Purana Killa needs a lot of work. So in that sense, archaeological evidences are the real deal in the sense of the evidence. When we call it that evidence, generally everyone gives highest credence to the artifacts which are coming back from the period when the event happened. Right? So that's one category of evidence. Another category is something which is carried forward during the later period of time. Right? Like, for example, it may be an inscription, it may be a literature, it may be a coin, it may be a cave painting, and any such thing as such. And some literatures could also be more ancient compared to the Mahabharata. Like, for example, the Veda. Like I gave the example of the Krishna Yajur Veda, which refers to Dhritarashtra. So in that sense, we have literature which are during the Mahabharata period, which are before the Mahabharata period, and also after the Mahabharata period. But with reference to the archaeological artifacts, we have a lot of work yet to be done in Bharat. So we are hoping that some comprehensive work will happen in the next coming decade. The way things are progressing, I see a very glorious possibility, a massive possibility of the archaeological sites getting excavated and coming out. So in our part, we are highlighting this issue. We are bringing out a world-class documentary on the historical evidences of Krishna and Mahabharata, which is going to come out very soon this year. So in that, all these evidences, whatever are found during and after, will also be shown. So regarding your specific question, whether it can be an evidence, yes, it is. The evidence is more on the side of culture. It's a cultural evidence which is being carried forward.
Another question, actually, a couple of them talk about what are the archaeological evidence of Mahabharata, which actually reminds me of Sanoli, the findings in Sanoli. So could you illuminate the significance of the findings in Sanoli as well?
Sanoli's findings are massive. They are very important. Why it's important? Because we were being taught in our the so-called history which was being taught in India. We were being taught that the Aryans invaded into India. They came in chariots. They came with full force, and they only brought the horses. They brought the chariots. They brought the because of them, the spoked wheels came into India. The spoked wheels. The wheels have spokes, right? So the theory which was floated around was the Aryan invasion theory. And in Aryan invasion theory, we were being taught in India that the Aryans invaded India at around 3,500 years back, 1,500 BC, okay, BCE, okay, before Common Era. So 1,500 BCE, Aryans invaded into India. And the Aryans brought chariots, Aryans brought horses, and Aryans came in chariots which had spoked wheels. Before that, India did not have chariots with spoked wheels, and India also did not have horses. This was the theory which was floated for a really, really long period of time. Starting with Max Muller, starting with Robert Caldwell, who agreed with his ideology. He tried to promote that the South Indians are a different race, Dravidian race, North are the Aryan race, and all that. So to create that divisiveness within India and to create conflicts. So Aryan invasion theory was floated around, which means that the Aryans invaded India at around 1,500 BC. But the reality, the funny fact is, the Sanoli chariots are around 3,900 or 4,000 years old. That's why it is important, because the lie which was being floated around for so long got smashed, got exposed. The lie was that the Aryans invaded into India. at 1500 BC. And only they brought chariots, they brought horses, they brought spoked wheel. I mean, they brought chariots which had spoked wheels. So before that, India did not have chariots with spoked wheels. India did not have also horses. That was a theory which was floated for really long in big universities all across the globe. That theory got questioned, attacked, challenged when the chariots of Sonali were found. That's how important it is. Now, why Aryan invasion theory, or which nowadays they don't use the Aryan invasion theory much. The Western academicians, they prefer to use Aryan migration theory because evidences of invasion are quite less. Or, sorry, I take back my word. Evidences of invasions are practically non-existent. So then they floated it around that Aryan migration theory. Aryans are migrating into India. But then that theory also is under question. If they migrated, when did they migrate? And how come you find evidences of chariots, spoked wheels, and horses so long? I mean, 4,000 years back. If Aryans only brought it around 3,500 years before, how come you find evidences of these same going back to 4,000 years? It's not possible. So that's how this whole theory got questioned. So that's how important is Sonali, because the lie got exposed. The lie that Aryans invaded into India 3,500 years back, that lie got exposed. That's why the Sonali chariots are important. And to tell you the fact, it is just tip of the iceberg. 90% of India, according to some American archaeologists, they say that 90% of India, ancient India, is still not excavated. 90% is a lot. 90, not 19, 90%. It could be more, maybe 80%, maybe 95%. We don't know. Approximately, it is a majority of ancient India is not excavated. So the point is that when these excavations happen, when science advances, when more people get into this, people dedicate their life to bring out these ancient sites, bring out more historical books, recreate the education system in a proper way, bring in the proper history, get this content on social media, then the real impact will start from there onwards. So people need to get aware about the period of Mahabharata, historical evidences and all that. So chariots of Sonali in that sense are very important.
I think with that, we can close the question and answer session. Thank you very much, Chandru Ji, for a very holistic view of how exactly we can approach the evidences that we have at hand and the work that has to be done in order to expand our efforts at finding what Mahabharata can exactly do in terms of understanding that it is a part of our Itihāsa. We will look forward to having more such sessions with you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste.